have 6:30, so let's begin our pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tom Sinkowitz. Here. Gary Salabon.
Here.
Don Cavella.
Yep.
Adrian Ferrari. Here. Ted Jermaine. Here. Linda Dorr. Keith Seal. Linda did give me advance notice that she was not going to be able to make it. All right. First order of business is a review of the minutes from our last meeting. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or are there any corrections that need to be made? If not, okay.
I'll move that we accept the minutes.
Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstention?
Aye.
Abstention. Motion carries. All right, at this time, we're going to start with new business, and that would be turning over the meeting to the Chief of Police, Mario Arriaga, who is going to present his budget to the board.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm going to do my best with technology. You know, we're all having a problem a little bit with our technology, so hopefully this works a little bit. First things first is I want to give credit where credit's due, and I wanted to start with the first selectman. He's been a big help in, for us getting some of the items that we need to get that we should have gotten years ago, as well as the Board of Finance, and also obviously our members in our community, especially with the records management system and the generator. I know the deputy chief was here in my absence, and I did hear that he did a good job as well. But I want to thank you all for moving forward with that. It's a much needed items. So we are in the process of getting those. Taking a little bit of setback right now with the issues that we have, but we're going to get there, and hopefully everything eventually gets smooth. So I put a packet for the budget, everybody together, and I think it's very important for everybody to understand where every dollar is being spent. So if you have any questions, hopefully I did my job right, and by the end of this you don't have many, and I hopefully can answer all of them during this presentation. And basically what I did is I broke it down into each line item, and basically just to discuss it like I did in your packets. And if there's any questions regarding that, please don't hesitate, just go ahead and ask. So hopefully this all works. Hopefully. Maybe. Right? Maybe. Try. I just tried this with the first selectman. We got it all going really nice.
Who's standing in front of it?
What's that?
Who's standing in front of it?
It wasn't working good. We'll just do it manually for right now. Or not. So our first line item, obviously, is department head. It doesn't label the chief of police, but obviously I am the department head when everybody sees the budget. I'm the commanding officer of the department. I report directly to the Board of Police Commissioners, and I oversee, obviously, all the civilian and sworn personnel. The department has approximately 26 to 30. A lot of people are like, well, what does that even mean? Why do you fluctuate like that? Well, we fluctuate a lot like that because of dispatch. Dispatch is very difficult to ascertain. Dispatch is a very difficult job, so it's really hard to fill those positions. So at our max, we like to have 6 to 8 part-time dispatchers, and I'll talk about when we utilize them. This increase of $3,298 from the previous fiscal year. You'll see during this presentation, though, even though you have in your packets, I really don't put percentages. You can see that in the packet because there's some line items that are small, and it shows like a 600% increase, even though it's like $600. So it looks a little bit off. So that's the reason why I don't like putting the percentages, because they mess with your mind a little bit, because the bottom line is you want to see the number and you want to see what that increase is in the number. Deputy Chief is the second in command of the department. He actually is the chief of police in my absence, so he does make those decisions when I'm not here. Obviously, as you know, I was away on training for approximately 3 months. He stood in my shoes and made those decisions, obviously by keeping me informed as well. You're going to see that this is a new line item, It's not a new position. What we're trying to do, and just speaking with the first selectman, is when we get the police salaries, those are union employees. When we get the dispatch, those are union employees. Myself and the deputy chief are not union, so we want to make sure you all have a better understanding of the structure of the police department, and that's why there's its own line item. Last year, it was just the deputy chief was incorporated with all the police salaries. So we're just trying to be a little bit more clear on where our chain of command is and how salaries are actually portrayed. There's an increase of $2,843 for that line item. The next is administrative office assistant. Honestly, she's probably the one that actually runs the PD. She does everything. I could actually use probably at least another full-time and a part-time, especially with all the FOI requests. She does billing, she does scheduling, she does everything. She's an unbelievable amount of help for the PD. There's an increase of $921 from the previous fiscal year. Next is police salaries. This is obviously the big chunk of our budget, is police
Are we
salaries.
allowed to ask questions?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Whatever you want.
Okay, I thought I heard you say you needed 2 more assistants, administrative office assistants.
Yeah, so I could use that. I didn't put that in, but I'm just saying she
Oh,
does
okay, I
so
was wondering
much.
where I might find them.
No, she's overworked, so I'm just saying like I could use her because there's so
Why didn't you ask for them?
because I got a lot of stuff I've been asking for, so I'm trying to push
Are you
things.
trying to hold the budget down?
I am trying to keep it as low as possible without having to go on any single line.
But are you giving up anything that's covering the town by doing that?
No, we're getting it done, but she's behind. So if you get a records request, we like to get that out in 5 days. We're pushing more like 25 days to get that record request out. Because you have one person doing all the record requests and doing the billing and also doing scheduling for officers and dispatchers. It's gonna come time when we just can't do it with one person. This budget, we're trying to be fiscally responsible, and I can't put that in right now. There's other avenues where I need to increase on, and right now I'm going to wait on that aspect of it. So it's going to come at one point in time where I'm going to need to put another full-time administrative assistant on. Even PD, smaller than us, I use
How far
Putnam,
down the road you talking?
within a year or two. There's smaller PDs, us that actually have 2 full-time and a part-time. There's just so much requests. I mean, I'm sure first I can say too, the amount of FOIs they get now and how it ties us up for hours. I mean, we charge 50 cents a page, but we don't charge for the number of hours that we put in. We had somebody request 2 years of documents. Well, how long is it going to take for her to gather that info? Weeks. But what about all the other tasks that she has to do? So eventually it is going to come there, and I have no choice but to add another full-time position on that. Good? Mr. Dumaine, good? Okay. So police sworn salaries, this is a big chunk of our budget. So what this includes, 18 sworn police officers, that's underneath the deputy chief and myself. This is an increase for the first time in years to that line item. I'm looking to add an extra police officer on this budget. I keep showing this stat because it's very important. For all the towns and cities in the state of Connecticut, which there is a ton, and I even eliminated some from your packet, Plainfield ranks the lowest for the number of officers per 1,000 residents. There's other ways to determine how many police officers you need in the community and in a town, but this is one of the most used way to determine the number of police officers. So now just think about it. Rounding up, even if you round down, you say we have 15,000 or 16,000 population, we should be roughly around 30-something cops. But you also got to look at the ability for the town to pay for 30-something cops. I can't come forward and say, hey, you know what, I need another 10 police officers. It's not feasible. But I know where my magic number needs to be in order to properly and safely police the town of Plainfield. And that's where I want to get to 22 police officers. We're getting there in that stage. The first selectman understands. He knows what my goal is and what I'm trying to do. So this budget does add an extra police officer from the previous year.
So you have 18 now, and you're going to add one that's going to make the 19?
So it would be 20 total. So myself is one, the deputy chief is another, and then 18 police officers that are in the union. So
And you're going to add one more to that?
Or the 18?
The 18 is the adding of one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 18 is the adding of one. Yep, that's easy. This is an increase of 67,776. I want to show you something because a lot of people don't understand. They think that they're getting like a 10% raise or whatever it may be. That's not the case because police officers have steps. So, oh man, this thing just turned on. All right. So the police officers have steps. So what I did is I actually broke it down because there's different steps. If you look at the, on the bottom, if you go bottom up, and I'll talk about the canine stipend, but if you see where it says 1 police officer, that's the starting pay for when you first get on the job. You first hire them, that's the starting pay. And then after so much time on the job, you go into a different step. So after a year on a job, you go into the first step. Then it goes to year 3, that's another step. Then 5, that's another step. Year 8, another step, and they max out at 8. So 8 years is the highest that they would be. So each officer, when I do the budget, I have to see when they were hired, and then I have to figure out exactly where they are on the step. So I may have hired somebody in January, but now I'm got to figure out 6 months because he's going to be on his 3-year mark. But he's only going to be on the 3-year mark for a 6-month period, not a whole year. So I got to take that into consideration. Hope that kind of makes sense. It gets a little confusing. It gets a little weird when you start putting numbers together. But when you look at it percentage-wise, what it looks like, oh wow, the police officer getting a 14% raise. That's not even close. It's just because people go into different steps at different parts of their career. Any questions? Dispatch, this is our civilian employees, and we talk about this. This line item is $224,615. It's an increase of about $10,600 this year, and we were struggling. We're actually struggling this year. We had to do line item transfers, if you remember, because of COVID and not being able to fill dispatch positions. They operate 24/7. So our shifts are divided into 3 shifts. It's a midnight shift, which is, let's just say 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. We have a day shift, which is 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then we have an evening shift, which is 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. There's always a dispatcher on 24/7. The dispatcher is the one that answers all the calls. They enter all the information into the records management system. But our dispatchers are a little unique. They just don't dispatch. They are actually clerks as well. So they file reports, they get paperwork ready for court. Somebody comes in for a records request, they have the training, they're able to give that information out as long as they're not busy. They deal with all walk-ins. They're the heart of the PD. They're the ones that control where they are. They help tell the officers where to go. So dispatchers are unique to this. I know you had some questions last year because the previous chief brought up outsourcing dispatch. And there's a lot to outsourcing. There's also new laws that came into place where they have to be filed, which would make it difficult for us to outsource our dispatch. We increased dispatch 200 hours, and what that means is that 200 hours is to fill in the gaps that we could not fill in this year. And basically it adds hours so we can have part-time help when need be. So part-time dispatchers fill in for the full-time dispatchers on the weekends, 24 hours a day on the weekends, all holidays, and PL days and sick time. That's when the part-time dispatchers fill in. As you can see, we have 1 full-time midnight shift dispatcher, 1 full-time day shift dispatcher, 1 evening full-time dispatcher, and we fluctuate between 4 to 6, sometimes up to 8 part-time dispatchers. Part-time dispatchers work holidays and weekends. Very tough to fill.
What kind of background do they have?
What's that?
What kind of background do they
For
have?
dispatchers?
Yes.
So everybody has to go through training. I don't care what your background is, because I can train you. As long as you're a good person and you have the basic ability to use computers. I can train you. You just gotta be a good person, clean record.
Do they go through background checks?
Yes, very much so. They also take a urine analysis, and they go through a background check. Not as extensive as a police officer, but it is a very difficult background check. It's like police overtime. This is needed. This is when cops get paid time and a half. It could be for major crimes. It could be for fires, suicides, homicides, robberies, fatalities. A big misconception about police overtime is when you see a police officer out directing traffic and at the town is paying that person time and a half to be out there directing traffic. That is, couldn't be any further from the truth. When you see an officer out there directing traffic, they are being subcontracted by the company, and they are actually paying for that police officer to be out there. That does not come out of this line item. In fact, it's nowhere in our line items. That would be income coming in. This is the first time we've increased this in about 5 years, and we increased it for $2,000 from the previous fiscal year. We're going to be very, very close this coming year with our current line item for police overtime. Obviously, due to COVID still and the more policies and procedures that the state of Connecticut is requiring us to do.
How many police officers are female and how many dispatchers are female?
Two female police officers. We have four minority police officers, multiple veterans. We also have 3, off the top of my head, 3 female dispatchers. And that's very, very diverse for a town our size. Very.
Are they bilingual?
Yes, we do have bilingual. Yep. Holiday pay. This is a contractual item. Basically, when an officer works a holiday, they have 2 options. One, they can get paid time and a half, or they can compensate for that holiday, or they can take that as a day off. So this is best guess judgment. They can only take as many as 7 days paid or time off, and the other has to be paid. But you don't know what the officer is going to do. They may just work it and not take any of the days. They may work it, and then that means that price of the $87.5 increases. So I have to use best guess judgment on whether the officer is going to take pay or take a day off in the future. And you just don't know because they have the option to do that. There's no increase compared to last year for that. I know. Uniform allowance. This is a quarterly allowance. It's for upkeep of uniforms, whether uniforms get worn, dry cleaning. It gives them the ability to upkeep it and keep it going. It also includes a one-time payment for a new hire of $1,200, which is very low. It actually costs about $4,000 to equip an officer, and the majority of that is out of their own pocket. But we do give them $1,200 and some other items, but it still costs about $4,000 per new hire, and a lot of it is out of their own pocket. There's a slight increase this year of $1,200, and that's because we're adding the extra officer. So that's why that increased this year, the extra $1,200, because they get that one-time payment when they're first hired, and that's why there's an increase of $1,200.
You provide them with a weapon?
Sure do. No cost, yes. No cost. And a radio, OC spray, taser, bulletproof vest. About it. Bullets, yeah, we get, those are hard to come by right now. So we're paying, it actually doubled in price, and we order in bulk, and they doubled in price.
Where's the firing range?
So, that's a good question. We use Snake Metal Gun Club. They're really good to us. They don't charge us. Snake Metal Gun Club?
Oh, okay.
They don't charge us. They allow us to shoot. We just give them advance notice, and they're more than happy to have us there. They're very, very good to us. Very good to us. Sick day incentive. It takes an employee 5 years to start receiving this incentive. That means 5 years without calling in sick even once. This is a benefit that they get. Basically, you can pay them for any sick time that they have in excess of 60 days. Normally, a lot of people don't get there. There's only several officers that do. But there is a slight increase of almost $2,000 from the previous year. Education incentive. This is given to each officer that has a degree. Over 50% of our department has some sort of college degree. As you can see on the bottom, one has a master's degree, 6 have bachelor's degree, and 3 of them have associate's degree. And they don't get this until after 1 year of service. So you have to do at least 1 year of service before you get the incentive. And you can see for a master's degree, it's $800 a year. For a bachelor's, it's $400, and then associate's is $200. That is paid at the beginning of the year. So sometimes when you see that line item, let's say in August, you're like, why is there no money left in this line item? Well, that's because it's paid July, usually third week in July or something like that, it's paid. So by August, it's empty. And you're like, whoa, but nothing else ever comes out of that.
Is it further education mandatory?
It is not. So as of right now, you don't even need an associate's degree to apply. That's going to change soon with the state, I bet. They want college. I encourage college, but sometimes we get a good candidate and he's never been to school outside of a high school diploma. So we do take him, we can train him. If you know anybody, go out here.
This is paid annually, right?
Annually, one time a year, yep.
Wait for the guys.
Supplies and expenses, this hasn't changed from last year. This is the supplies and expenses. I don't need to go in detail unless you want me to. Basically, it's all listed there, and I think I explained it all. It hasn't changed from last year. We take body armor out of here, prisoner meals, we do feed them McDonald's. We go in there, we look at the drive-thru, we just say, can I get a prisoner meal, please? Breakfast, it's an egg, cheese, a McMuffin, hash brown, and OJ. Lunch, hamburger, small fry, small soda. And the same thing for dinner. So you don't want to be in there. It's not good. There are newer cells there. Training and memberships. This is what gets us in trouble. Is training. Because anytime that anybody is sued, it's because of two things: lack of supervision and lack of training. It's very difficult. Training used to be free. When I first started, to pay for training was unheard of. Now everything costs, and it ain't cheap. And there's so many requirements and certifications that we have to keep up that this line item, you're gonna see increasing year after year because of what it entails and what the state is requiring us to do. Before, they never did drug screening. It was just when you're hired. Now we gotta do it better.
What's the longest you can hold a prisoner?
Well, I think the longest I ever held anybody at 84 was about 5 or 6 days, and that's because there was holidays, there was snowstorms, and
But is that a mandatory thing?
no, it's basically, if we hold them, it's the next day till they go to court. So if you get arrested on a Thursday, and it's like Good Friday, and you're not going to court Friday.
You typically hold them till they go to court?
Correct.
Whatever that takes.
Correct. Yep. If we can release them, we want to release them. If we can release them and we know they're not going to commit another crime, or obviously we can't guarantee it, we'd rather release them because it becomes a liability when we have them in the cell. But unfortunately, sometimes there's bonds, and they can't secure those bonds, so we have to release them. Obviously, we have to hold them. Any questions for training?
While an officer is in training at the police academy, are they being paid a salary?
So when I hire you, you apply, I immediately put you on the payroll. I actually must have you sworn in, and you're on the payroll. You're there, you're getting paid. And then it costs us about $5,000 to send you to the academy. Computers and technology, this is a touchy topic, obviously. There is no increase from last year, though I don't know how this is going to pan out, especially with everything that's taking place now. I'll go through each line item so you have an idea of what it is. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to help you. The voice logger, basically what that is, that's a contract, and that records all our telephone calls. Every telephone call that comes in and every radio transmission is recorded. That's a service yearly that we have to pay. Web services, even though the town has the website that now we belong to, there's still other odds and ends when it comes to web services, such as our domain, etc. Nixle, that's our half. We split it with the town side. The PD and the town split it, so that's our split. Dashboard and body cameras. We have cameras now that are obsolete. The state has mandated with the Police Accountability Act that they must do certain things that ours don't, and they also mandated dashboard cameras in all the vehicles. This is a yearly thing, so this fee of right here is going to equip all our vehicles and each officer with the technology that is required by the Police Accountability Act to ensure that we're compliant with that law. Atlantic Broadband, as we know, that's not them now, it's Breeze Line or something. And basically, this is a direct fiber line that is from the PD to the town hall, though that's kind of what hurt us. for the crypto issue because we didn't have the proper blocking of that technology that ended up getting to our backups as well. So basically what we do is we actually back each other up. So the town hall backs up here, and the town hall also backs up at the PD as a redundancy backup. PD same way, we back up at the PD, then we back up at the town hall for a redundancy backup. Problem is, they were able to encrypt those files and get to them.
You have an IT expert on staff?
We do not. We do not.
So is one of your new hires gonna be an IT
I
guy?
would love that, but we're not paying an IT new hire $54,000.
Why?
Because you're not gonna find a good IT guy at $54,000. You put that at $154,000, you'll find a good IT guy, but not at $54,000. It just, the amount of money that they make
Do you think he's worth 154?
for IT all day long, we look at what we're going through now.
Well, that's what I'm saying, so why are we not looking there rather than putting him on a beat?
We are, Kevin and I briefly talked about that. It's something that we're gonna have to figure out and get somebody that is committed.
I think the figuring is done. It has to be done. No more figuring.
Okay, if you want.
Okay.
All right. Ted, we're still in the discovery phase,
Okay.
all right? Until we can figure out exactly what the issues were and how to stop them in the future, we have a whole laundry list of things we have to do, including hiring a new person, full-time.
Okay.
When we get to that point, we're probably going to be looking on the town side to take on a lot of these things. So our budget side is going to change. And eventually we'll be able to work with the police to share some of that cost load. But right now, it's just a matter of we have to weed through all of the issues we have. We're getting professional advice as to what we should be putting in. And then we'll make a list and we'll come to the town. Like, we had our budget ready a while ago. Well, obviously everything changes. So we ask that you just bear with it for right now. We will come back with a full list of things that we have to make changes to, including if possible for this coming year for our full-time person for our team.
So that, when I'm asked, that's my answer. Because I am being asked.
Sure.
Okay.
Chief,
Yes, sir.
did you by chance check out what we talked about before about the backup is the backup? You know what I'm saying? An outside source.
Correct. So we have,
Okay.
and not looking good.
Okay.
Records management system, this is gonna change slightly because we're gonna go to the new records management system. So this will eventually be a couple $1,000s less on that line item. Celebrite is a forensic phone extraction software. And basically when we pay a phone, this takes that data, that forensic data out of your cell phone for investigations. I can't tell you how great of a piece of equipment that is. VMware and Veeam, that's our backups and virtual servers. Motion DSP, basically what that is used for, that's used to, when somebody requests a body cam footage, there's some things I have to, let's just say, white out. So that software is used to wipe people's face out or blur their face out or even change their voice if I need to change their voice.
So what's the increase year over year?
On this right now,
Yeah.
I have no increase for this year compared to last year.
No increase, even though you have to upgrade the dash and
That's correct.
oh, okay.
That was correct. So I was able to move some things around and not utilize some of the things that we no longer because we went to the town website. And our DMS is where we keep all our policies. So even though we were hit with this ransomware, it does not affect our policies. Our policies are in the cloud. Any police officer or any civilian personnel can actually access them on their phone and pull up a policy. And we have policies for everything. Mugshot System, basically it's just a yearly contractual fee that we have to pay to keep our mugshot software up. Believe it or not, when you take a mugshot, it is supposed to be in the background is supposed to be specific, the color, the shading, the lighting, all has to be specific for mugshots. Drone is the drone. Computer replacement, this is to replace the rest of the computers that we have there. And Protocol Networks is the subcontractor that we split with the town to give us services that Kyle or myself can't complete. And contingency is just if anything happens that I didn't list here, I did my best to try to list everything, but there's some things that may come up that shouldn't belong under this line.
How do you use the drone for?
I use that for a lot of things, if we don't crash it. Missing persons, if we get a fatal accident, we send a drone up and it pinpoints and maps the scene. If we get a robbery, it does the same thing. We've used it for missing adults, missing children. It is unbelievable.
Does it have firepower?
It does not have firepower. We are not putting firepower on it whatsoever.
With our operator.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Were there any computers that were compromised by this recent hacking at the police department?
Yes.
So they're gonna have to be replaced?
So they are going to be re-imaged, wiped clean, and reinstalled. We literally put 10, 11 up within the last 2 months. Brand new ones. Utilities, just exactly what it is, your natural gas, your electric, your phones, network equipment. There's a slight increase with utilities, and again, this is best judgment. You know how Eversource is and all the other companies, they keep going up. But we try to do our best, what we can. And I'm yelling at everybody to make sure they turn off the lights and all that stuff. Oops, sorry. Vehicle expenses. If you look, I have this in red because when I put this together, we use $3 a gallon. If any of you have an infection, maybe call Biden or something, I don't know. But obviously that number's gonna be off. Nothing I can do, our calculation is based on $3 a gallon. It's $4.20, $4.30, maybe it will be $5, I don't know. That's not looking good. Tires, and I put other expenses because it all depends on lighting for vehicles, sirens, anything blows, transmission repairs. It's a slight increase of $2,000, even going with $3 per gallon, which sounds pretty good right now.
Do we bid the fuel?
I'm sorry?
Do we build the gas? Do we bid the gas?
Town does. And just to add something to that, Ted, right now, we have some issues with the fuel itself for storage. There's a 1,000-gallon tank there that has 500 for diesel and 500 for gas. It's also used by the Board of Education. Let me finish. It's also used by the Board of Education. The intent is possibly next year, not this coming budget year, but the next year, to buy 2 5,000-gallon tanks so that when the numbers are lower, we can fill it. And that way it would save in bulk. So the idea of just $3 would be a problem in the future. But we have to plan for all of these things that are happening. And when I realized it was only a 1,000-gallon tank and the board that uses it, it goes pretty quickly. So here's our other problem that ties in with it. We get a delivery fee. Well, they're coming up there almost every other day for the delivery. So if we have a larger tank, much larger, and can fill it on a less rapid basis, then we'll save some money. So that's a plan we're going to have in place. Unfortunately, we don't have capability right now.
Where will we locate that?
But we at the highway garage.
Could you start like a permit process,
We have to go
process?
through all of that, yeah.
Can you say do it now or soon,
Okay,
to
so
get it going for 2 years from now?
I'll redo my budget just. I'm going to have to redo my budget anyway for the technology.
Now, I'm just saying for the tanks you want to do in a couple of years, possibly, right?
Wouldn't be this coming fiscal, but probably.
Yeah, the following,
Yeah.
but at least get the permit.
Oh, yeah, we'll be all
Design
set to
permit
go.
done, so you'll have no problem when we approve it.
Will all tanks be housed in the garage?
Highway garage.
Which number do we fill up to, everybody fills up to?
So you get all your fuel at the highway garage?
Correct, so Kelly
Do you have
has,
anything at the PD?
nothing at the PD, so Kelly has an account, we punch in numbers, so we know that it's coming out of the PD.
Oh, okay.
Everybody has one, whether it's,
Yeah, but not right now, you know, that's
Yeah,
all
yeah.
shut off.
the buses, whether it's for the police, any other town vehicles, things like that.
Okay.
So a total proposed budget is $2,410,503, obviously rounded up from the other side. That's what I'm proposing here, and that's what I gave to, obviously, the first selectman and the selectman as well. And everybody else should have a copy. So I'm gonna go real quick just into the 5-year capital, and then I'll open up for even more questions. So when I gave this to you, as you can see, The 5-year capital, we have 2 police SUVs. This is what we do if we take these away, or we get one, or we get none, we put on hundreds and thousands of miles on these cars. So that's the reason why we put 2 every year, because if we don't, we're gonna be in trouble. And you can see there's a list of fleets of the vehicles and the miles that are on them. But, and also, capital improvement was also included the records management system. It also included the generator. And it also included the evidence/storage garage. Well, obviously, talking with the first selectman, we are going to be able to get the 2 SUVs. The records management system was already approved. We are in the process of getting that. The generator was also approved. We're in the process of obviously getting that. And then the evidence storage building, the first selectman has placed that in the budget in order to get that as well. So it makes this 5-year capital improvement obsolete, which is great. It's a good thing. So we're getting these things done. The next following year, again, 2 police SUVs. If you don't know, we also have a police pickup truck. It is probably in 1997. The mechanic has replaced the frame like 18 times. It is done. It is checked out, so I included that for the following fiscal year as well. And what we also include, in speaking with the first selectman, we have an ideal location to notify town residents of anything, whether it's a major incident or a vote for the budget. Instead of always having one little placard in front of the PD, a digital safety sign / notification sign at the PD. That's obviously in the future, but it's something that will benefit all town residents. It's pricey, but at the same time, it's going to give everybody the notifications that they need. The following year, if this thing still works, again, 2 police SUVs, replacing the locker room. We have 2 locker rooms that if a female needs it, they just lock inside because I can't separate them because there's only 2 females and 30 guys. So if they need it or vice versa, they can put a lock on it. They're old, they're antique, the lockers don't lock, they're broken, so eventually we're going to need to replace that. Our filing system, we're running out of room. We need to eventually come up with a new system for our filing. So that's that improvement. The following year is 2 police SUVs in our evidence room. You'll see that if anybody's ever been in there, which you probably haven't, you can't move in there. It's a hole in the basement and it has no ventilation, and you have narcotics, you have sex assault kits, you have a lot of stuff in there that with no ventilation. So this fixes it and gives our evidence room an overhaul. Same thing for the 5th year, 2 police vehicles, and then also we're going to have to reseal the parking lot again on that 5th year around.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Records retention and filing system, fiscal year 24-25. That's different than the records management system?
Completely different. These are the hard copies and the files that we all have that are spread out in closets, rooms, wherever we have open space underneath the stairs. We don't really have that. Wherever we can find space, we really have it.
Excuse me, I think I missed the mechanic. Is he in here somewhere?
Mechanic is separate. The mechanic office is out with the police department, works on police vehicles, but also works on town vehicles. He falls under the town highway department because he's a union member of the town highway department.
When did that happen?
Many years ago.
He's always been a union member there.
Well, I was here many years ago. And when I was here, he was like the police department.
In the police department, but in the other contract.
Correct. So he gets,
Even back then?
yeah.
Back then.
We re-itemized it because it was not, he works for the highway department, but he is out of the, his office is out of the. Chino, yeah. Yep. He's still there, he's still got 100 more years to go.
You hope.
Yes, he's gonna be very hard to replace.
Mechanic.
Huh? He's phenomenal. Phenomenal. He builds our cars ground up. If he didn't build our cars ground up, it would be about $25,000 to outfit our vehicles that we got to subcontract out. Yes, sir.
All right, I'm just going to make a couple of comments and observations. Obviously, what we've had with issues with IT, I would like to see a consideration for an increase in the 5-year capital for your next go-round to include IT.
Yeah.
so that we can get sort of server upgrades, everything can be upgraded. So that would be great for having into the 5-year capital, because we can figure that that's going to be needed anyway. So that's one thing I suggest. I do have a couple of quick questions. And I don't know if everybody here is aware, and obviously you can fill in the blanks, but your shifts have changed from the 12-hour shifts to the 8-hour shifts. And I think that's phenomenal, because eventually it could help with the holiday pay, overtime pay in
Correct.
the upcoming year.
So they were on 12-hour shifts, now they are on 8-hour and 10-minute shifts. The 10 minutes is for roll call and stuff like that. So it is a lot better, it's a lot healthier for the police officers as well. We tried the 12-hour shifts and didn't work out well. Did not work out well.
A couple other quick ones, and this one's related more to this year, but it gives an idea of what we're looking at. The 2 new vehicles you finally got.
Yes.
Thank goodness they finally came in.
I think I saw one on the road, I was like, ooh, I like it.
So when those are coming online, the other ones you're going to take off, can you contact us for that so we get those off for liability issues?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And those are the big ones for right now, I think that we should talk about. We have a new contract with the police that just was, we're waiting for actual signatures because Jerry Collin has retired and his name's on that contract, but he's not there anymore. So we'll figure that out, we'll get that over, hopefully within the next 2 days, I'll figure it out. So I'm hoping that you'll have a chance to take a look at the contract, because you can see that we did a very good job cooperatively to keep the numbers down for the increases. And there were some things given back and forth. I think that, when you look at the numbers, I think that was very well done with what we have in numbers coming into this coming year.
How much of an increase is your budget over last year's?
Go to the.
It should be here. About 9%, 194,284.
Oh, okay, thank you.
You got it.
And one adjustment, obviously, before we actually go for the town, to adjust the number for your records management system to decrease it from 19.5 to 16.5, I think it is. But I think it was very well done, so I would hope that this board would consider when moving forward with this particular part of the budget.
Any other questions? I'd be more than happy to answer. Hopefully, answer a lot of what you already have maybe. You got a lot of sticky notes.
Going back to the administrative office assistant, what would a part-timer cost?
So, and just
Would that be
using.
somebody who works like 20 hours a week?
Correct, so you do between 20 and 25 hours a week, you're probably looking anywhere from around $25,000.
Did COVID have any kind of an impact?
Major impact, especially to our overtime budget. We had officers, civilian employees out constantly on COVID, but not even just on COVID, just the amount of work that's coming in, the amount of complaints that were made, the incidents that were taking place. We had to put additional officers on. Yeah,
Do they have to be vaccinated?
they do not have to be vaccinated. The majority of our department is not only vaccinated, but they are not required to. They don't require it.
Just the cost of gloves alone.
So the cost of gloves, which we go through thousands of gloves, just regular latex, have nearly tripled in price for gloves. And of course, we can get masks, like they go out of style for free, and nobody got the gloves now. So the latex gloves have tripled in price, and it is just absurd. Absurd.
Where's cleaning at? Is it still under the town budget?
Oh, yeah. And for the gloves, we'll do everything we can to try to find them. I know the fire marshal has been able to acquire some from the DEMIS and going through that process. So whenever we can find some, we'll get some. But it is not easy finding. It really isn't. So it's an additional cost.
So getting back on the ammunition, like ammunition has doubled in price. And where we even go that is doubled in price is back ordered anywhere from 3 months to 9 months. So now we need ammunition like now. So think about double the price, and where we are getting it moves to wholesale, can't get it for 9 months. So now we have to get it even closer, which is even more than double the price for ammunition.
I ask where you're getting, is it Connecticut or
So we usually get it from AAA supply, and they're between 3 and 9 months back. They can't even give us a time frame. And there are millions of rounds that they already have being ordered from other agencies.
How is the cooperation between all the so-called local departments in the state? Is that a problem anywhere?
As in police departments? No. I mean, we are down. Our systems are down. We've been up to Putnam. I was sending officers to Putnam. The police chiefs are amazing up there. Whatever service we need, other agencies have reached out and said, hey, whatever you need, we're here to help. And it's great, but when I send a cop up to Putnam, that costs me overtime. So because I can't just send a cop and not replace them back here because I have to have minimum staff in here. So if I send an officer somewhere else to do a report or bring a prisoner because of this or that, it costs money. So we try to limit that as much as possible, but they're great. The problem is they're not offering all the amount of money that we have to pay the hackers to give us back our files. Nobody offered that yet, though. It's hoping.
Are you anticipating any turnover?
I am anticipating turnover, not because they did anything wrong, but because they put in their time as a law enforcement officer. And I do anticipate 3 retirements, probably within the next few months. So, again, like I said, I'm going to be hired if you want to apply. I'll give you an application. But yes, I do anticipate. It's a great question. They're phenomenal officers. They put a lot of years in, and it's time to hang up for them.
Will you count my sheriff's background?
I'll even give you the time. I just got to talk to them a little bit. I'll give you a little bit of time. Really,
The background check. Let them fly the drone with the Hellfire.
Oh, God.
What is the potential for transfers from other departments,
So,
other towns?
I think after we've finished this contract and these negotiations and going back and forth, I think we're going to have more of an opportunity to get a transfer from a different agency. My biggest problem is we're not the only ones hired. We're going to lose 3, so we're going to be hiring 3, or if we get the extra officer, we'll be hiring 4. It's great. But what about those departments that need to hire 200? So I'm hoping with the new contract that we're going to get more applicants than we normally have. We're a young police department. We've got a lot of great officers, a lot of great dispatchers, but
Is there a minimum age?
21. No maximum age, though.
I'm sure you've mentioned this before, I just want to make sure you're aware of what you were just talking about, getting people to apply. Years ago, you put an opening.
Oh, you'd have hundreds. We used to do tests at the high school, we still do that at high school. You'd have hundreds to apply for one position. Hundreds. Now, we'll have 3 positions open, and we'll have 7 people that apply. We'd have hundreds for one.
How many are viable?
We'd be lucky to get one. Our last one, we only got 1 out of 7, which was great. That's great. We got 1 at least. But it's hard.
Why do you feel that is?
If you see what's going on and how law enforcement is being treated and how the profession is looking and what they're requiring us to do, it's very difficult. And unless you really, truly believe in this profession and this field and that you want to give it everything you have, they try to take away different things. Immunity, they're taking away different things. And, nobody wants to be sued. Nobody wants this to happen. People have families.
Is that the same with corrections and marshals, do you know?
That I don't know. Those are a little different in job description. There's a lot of hate for the police. Our community loves us. I believe they love us. But that doesn't help the state of Connecticut by cutting funds or requiring mandates but not giving us funding for it.
How about dealing with maybe the DOD, see if anybody's separating from military?
I would love that.
Law enforcement.
I would love that. And it's just a matter of wanting them or getting them.
I mean, is there a way you can contact or put in some?
So we do
information about that?
contact that, and we do reach out to try to get veterans. That may be put in 4, 8, 10 years. If you're 30-something years old, that's okay. I'm okay with it. I don't know about Mr. Dumane's age, but, No, I'm just kidding. I will still take you.
Every Thursday morning, I got about 40 veterans, and
See?
they come talk to
There
us.
you go. I like it. But yes, that is great, and I do love it. And we do have veterans, and it's great because there's a new thing out there, too, for training, too. One of our officers is a National Guardsman and was a military police, and he did it for 7 years. We were able to take that training, not send him to the police academy, but send him to like a satellite office for a couple weeks, and that certified him. We got him ready within a month to be on the road versus hiring somebody brand new off the street. And don't take this the wrong way, they're no good to us for about a year. So a normal person coming off the street that's not a cop, by the time we put them through training, we get them to the academy, the field training afterwards, and being on their own, it's 1 year. 1 year till they can just be on their own and be a patrol officer.
So it is, on a serious note, is there any way the citizenry can somehow help out here?
No, it's too much of a liability, and I have to hire them as a police officer. And it's just way too much, or a dispatcher. Hire those two.
What about the old neighborhood watches?
The thing is, that when Ruth Moore was here, she had a good neighborhood watch system. Those are unique, and they've been going by the wayside, but we need that civilian personnel to start those, because they report things, and then they help out. And these little things that we don't have time for, because I only had 2 officers, sometimes 3 officers on at a time. And they could be tied up and loose up, and then all the way together in the Plainfield, and I ain't got nobody for another half hour, 45 minutes. If they get a DUI or if they get a domestic violence and they make an arrest, that officer's done for the next 6 hours. He's done. He's got paperwork. Any other questions?
Yeah, you had a drop of almost 4,000 calls from last year.
Yep.
This year, what do you attribute that to?
That's so hard to determine. You see that the numbers are there. It fluctuates, and it's all about reporting too. So if sometimes when we do get a call, if it doesn't get reported or doesn't duplicate the call, it could be a lot of factors that play there. Also, there in the other year, there was COVID, even more crazy than it is today. So there's a lot of factors that play there. It's really hard to determine that.
Do we have any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion that we accept the presentation. Please. Made a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second to accept this.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? I want to thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, good job.
Thank you.
At this time, I'll open up the floor to any citizen participation. If anybody has some questions or comments that they would like to make. All right. And at this point, I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn.
So moved.
Any opposed? All right. All those in favor of adjourning, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Very good. Thank you very much. I would like to remind the board that next week we will be meeting with the Board of Education. And if you would like, Gary has some notes from his research. I would encourage you to take a set, and you look at it, and include the thought that